just about the first year when we did a show outside of Minneapolis at a ballroom at Lake Minnetonka, it's called. The place was sold out. We did 4 sets that night, and the place was sold out, and there was still a line of cars like for a mile down the road coming in. You could see the headlights. And I said to my cousin Brian on a break after the second set, I said, man, this must have been what it was like when Elvis Presley started out. So it was the first time that we recognized that, wow, this is something pretty special. There's something going on. So we didn't think way ahead, and we didn't think 50 years ahead, but we did see that there was something pretty nifty going on.
Let's go surfing now, everybody's learning how. Come on a safari with me. Come on a safari with me. Early in the morning we'll be starting now.
So the first question is, how did the Beach Boys name come about?
Actually, we didn't know what to call ourselves when we first started. But our first record was called Surfin'. It was recorded in 1961 in the fall. And within a couple of weeks of recording it was being played on the radio and become a pretty good sized local hit. But we didn't know what to call ourselves. There's this style of shirt they call Pendleton shirts, Pendleton Mills, and this woolen long sleeve, sort of like a sweater shirt. And a lot of the surfers wore them, so we were calling ourselves the Pendletons. And so when we heard the local record promoter said, well, it's called surfing, you guys are from Southern California, how about we call ourselves the Beach Boys? And I said, that's a lot better than what we have. So it stuck.
I'm curious, were there struggles before the success, and kind of how did you go about getting your first break?
You know, most people have to struggle and really stress and try to make it and stuff, but that wasn't the case with us. We were really lucky because the first song we wrote became a hit, our first record, and became a hit record. And then the next one, called Surfin' Safari, and another song called 409, which is about a Chevrolet car. Mm-hmm. They were hit records, and then they got assigned to Capitol Records in 1962. So we really didn't struggle or anything like that. You know, we were really fortunate to be successful right off the bat. We weren't like anybody else. You know, the closest to it would be somebody like there was a group called the Four Preps that sang harmonies. So we sang harmonies, but we liked to beat with it. We liked the rock and roll. So we combined the rock and roll of Chuck Berry with the blend of the Everly Brothers, with maybe some of the doo-wop kind of formula as well. And that gave us our unique sounds.
So when, speaking of writing and going about creating your songs, where do you get your motivation? What is kind of the formula for success for when you first hit the pen and paper? Originally,
it was our environment. Everything to do with our school, our cars, the beach life and everything like that. There was a sub-ethnic group in Southern California called the Surfers, meaning there were the Hodads and there was the Surfers. There was the Greasers and there was the Surfers. Right. There were the Hoodlums and then there was the Surfers. I mean, the Surfers can be a little hoodlums at times, you know, whatever, burning stuff to keep warm at night on the beach. But by and large, we associated ourselves with this group that dressed a certain way, talked a certain way. The word bitchin' was used a heck of a lot. So, and you know, different kind of terminology and stuff having to do with the sport of surfing. Basically, it was just all the stuff that we saw going on in our lives that nobody really paid that much of attention to lyrically in music. So our original inspiration was environmental, local. Then as we became successful and toured around the world and what have you, we got a little more broader perspective therefore, and saw these girls all over the place. Great, wish they all could be California girls. So, and then we got more into philosophy of more introspective, like in our Pet Sounds album. And there's some pretty introspective songs in there. And In My Room is an early ballad that we did. That's more the introspective side, the melancholy side, which kind of counterbalances or goes along with, in some way, complements, the more upbeat side.
What would you say the most important thing to you is about creating music?
Well, for us, it's always been harmonies. There's got to be a great melody and harmonies. For me, though, personally, there's people that are into doing music just totally subjectively, which is very close to selfishly, which is okay. And a lot of artists are very subjective, very selfish in that what they come up with is this is how they feel, and they're putting it into words. But I also look at it as, myself personally, I'm more of a lyricist and a concept person, and what they call hooks. Like I came up with the idea of, I'm picking up good vibrations, she's giving me the excitations. I came up with that idea to go along with the words that I also wrote, but it matched the music too. And so the idea is that I like to do something creatively that not only is artistically great, and it has to be that, the harmonies have to be there, the chord progressions have to be there, the subject matter has to be, something you want to deal with. But I want it to be successful too. I have a competitive streak when it comes to that. It comes from my days of running track and cross country, and hating to get beat.
So how do you measure the success of each record? Is it based off of how much hype it builds with the audience and your fans? Is it hit home? Does it hit home with you personally? What, in terms of measuring each song, what do you deem a successful song?
Well, obviously successful is determined by the marketplace. If you sell a lot of records, that's in termed success. But subjectively, how that song came out, did it come out, did it meet your expectations? Does it blow your mind in terms of the sound and the harmonies and all that kind of stuff, or does it not? And if it doesn't, you're not going to, even though it might be successful economically, it might not be so successful in terms of, you might not be so proud of it. So, but we have been really fortunate to do, for the most part, songs that qualify in both categories, artistically and commercially successful. I mean, we haven't always been commercially successful. With changes in the record company, and then my cousin Brian, he was really at the top of the game in '66, '67. Then he took LSD. That took him out of the game for a long time. I mean, he's come back in recent years and stuff, but for a while there, he went from being very dynamic and at the top of the music business, along with all of us, to virtual recluse for a while. So that was because of drugs, LSD in particular, but other things too. So, that was that. When people ever ask what was the worst thing about the Beach Boys, I said, it's the drugs. Because you can never tell what a drug is going to do to a person.
Right.
Just like some people can drink alcohol and be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Some people drink alcohol destroys their life.
Right.
They're called alcoholics. Well, there's drugaholics too, but people don't know that because they indiscriminately participate or ingest something. And some people can do LSD 22 times and be fine. Other people do it and become psychotic, and it just freaks them out.
Yeah.
So I'm really sketchy on the drug situation. Yeah, so I'm not because I look down on people for doing it, but I'm just really had the experience of seeing some really screwed up things happen because of drugs. That's the most negative thing that happened in our group's history.
So being a person in the music business as an icon and a role model for a lot of people, how have you and how do you continue to handle yourself as a role model and someone who is successful and people look up to?
Well, one of the things that kept me from becoming an alcoholic or getting into a whole drug thing, is the fact I was able to learn meditation, transcendental meditation, in December of 1967 that is, in case anybody's wondering, from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And then a couple months later, I was invited, about a month after that, to go to India, which I went to India in February of 68. The Beatles were there and all that kind of thing. But the daily practice of meditation is very important to me, because if I don't, I get irritable. And I can see where, people don't want to be irritable. People don't want to be stressed out and fatigued, and they want to enjoy themselves. They want to feel good. And that's a lot of that feeling good. You go in the alcohol direction, or you go in the drug direction in search of feeling better. And I understand that totally. But what I found is, because the meditation allows you to relax without any negative side effects, without any hangovers, without any fuzziness or craziness or weirdness. It's just a deep relaxation that you gain from TM, transcendental meditation. And that's been a huge benefit to me. So if anybody were to ask me my advice, I would say, well, you can only benefit by learning and practicing transcendental meditation. There are other things you can do too that are positive and helpful and stuff like that, and sports and that kind of thing. But this is a mental technique that doesn't require going anywhere but sitting with your eyes closed, and it's an effortless mental technique. Anybody can learn it. It's very simple to learn, but it's very powerful and effective in what it does. See, it eliminates a lot of stress. And see, when you act out of stress and or fatigue, first of all, if you feel tired, everybody knows if you feel tired, you just don't feel that great. It's much easier to fall into an argument or give up on something or whatever it may be. The fatigue is a big enemy of success. So the benefit of meditation is to demolish fatigue and get rid of all the stress. And your biochemistry of your blood actually changes, gets rid of the lactate and all the things that flood into your system through either fear, stress, activity, overwork, whatever it might be. So you have a clearer mind and a clear mind, and you're actually using more of your IQ, expanded awareness they call it, so that you can accomplish more. And so it clears the path and prepares you for activity. It's not an escape from activity, it's a preparation for successful activity. So it's a huge benefit that way. How is it that, there can be all these religions with all these great sayings and theories and things to do and ways to do them, and yet the world is just in chaos? And so that's one of the things that attracted me to the Maharishi's teachings, because he said if enough people learn to meditate, then there could be a world peace. So with meditation, when you go within and you gain a tremendous perspective when you're ready to come out and do your activity. So I think that's what I live by more than any words or anything. The biggest thing is business part of it. There's the music business, and then when there's money involved, people steal from you. They don't pay you on time, and you have to go after them with attorneys and stuff. There's a whole bunch of crap that goes on in the business part of music. So if somebody's interested in pursuing music, I think it'd be good to take some business courses and get a little more savvy than certainly I was. So I think it's fascinating that there are actual mental techniques that allow you to help you not only expand the conscious mind, but be able to improve your powers. And what that does, if your intuition is good, then maybe in business or in any relationship, you're going to be better off.
How would you specifically define success?
Well, success is happiness, I think. Success is being satisfied and happy with yourself and your station in life, your way of life, and how you live your life and how people regard you, and whether it be family or friends or whatever. So that's an essential part of success. And then there's all kind of other ways to gauge success. Some people can be economically successful. I mean, if you want to gauge it that way, then that's pretty easy. You say, you know, of all the people who are doing this, I'm doing X, everybody doing this well, I'm doing pretty well too, you know. But I think it has to do, each individual has to find their own success, their own thing that they really are good at. In Sanskrit, there's a word called dharma. And what that means, dharma, there's karma, everybody's heard of karma, bad karma, good karma, whatever. Karma means action. So if you do bad actions, it's going to reverberate on you. As you sow, so shall you reap, they call it. Live by the sword, die by the sword. Okay, yeah, I get it. So that's bad karma. Good karma is if you continually do, even in spite of people, you know, do things to you or inadvertently or otherwise that happen that's not so great to you. Instead of dwelling on that and obsessing on it, it's better just to try and do good with your life. And so. Anyway, but the dharma of it is, dharma means that level of life that you're meant to live. In Vedic astrology, which is called Jyotish, Jyoti means light in Sanskrit, and they call the planets the illuminaries. And the Vedic astrologer can look at your birth time and see what you ought to be doing in life, where you'll be most successful or most happy. Yeah. Because a lot of people study and become a lawyer or a doctor, then they have their heart attack at 42. You know, that's not successful. That's not cool at all. So the thing is to define something wherein you're happy. It might be being a gardener. It might be that you're happy being a nurse or a doctor or maybe you're meant to be in the military because you have a protective nature. So it's interesting because in Vedic astrology you can see what your dharma is, and then it also is you're able to find who, if you're meant to be with somebody, and maybe that completes you. So I mean it's very interesting. There's a lot of knowledge to be gained from the Vedas and Vedic astrology and all this kind of stuff.
And lastly, is there any secret to success in your opinion?
Well, what comes to mind when you ask that question is perseverance. If you really have a belief that you can do something well, then do it. And even if the first time it didn't come out that great, that's just the first time. You know, maybe it's meant to be that it'll take you a while longer than other people. You don't want to waste your life doing something wherein you'll never be successful. But if you have a belief and a goal and a talent for something, then fine. Okay, then persevere. That would be something that may be needed. You were just lucky to have been able to be successful from the beginning. We persevered through the years, and there's been ups and downs, you know, periods of time when the Beach Boys are great. Beach Boys are has-beens. You know, Beach Boys have sold a lot. Beach Boys have sold nothing lately. I mean, all that's natural cycles of, you know, kind of, you know, the good and the bad. It's kind of natural because if you become really successful, then there will be a time when somebody else will become more successful. You know, that happens all the time. But you can't let that bother you. You can just be happy with the fact, hey, we gained this success. I'm still able to do this. I still enjoy it. We still have a certain amount of people who like what we do. That's great. That's a fortunate life.